Welcome to Pages and Pods. In this episode, we will look at the basic structure of Kabbalah as represented by the well-known diagram called the Tree of Life. There are many traditions that have examined the concepts of the Tree of Life, more accurately called the 10 sephirot. Next, we will take a deep dive into the sephirah at the base of the Tree of Life called Malchut, which is the boundary layer between God and humanity. The Tree of Life can be seen as a roadmap of how God emanates from the heavenly realms into the material realm of humanity. The 10 sephirot are qualities of God. Another way to describe the sephirot is as aspects, personalities, or even divine emotions. As humans, we are limited in our understanding of God. We are limited by space since we exist in 3 dimensions and time, but all dimensions exist with God, as well as time. In the episode titled, How Does God Interact with the World?, we learned that God had to create a space within himself, a place where his presence is diminished, so that we may have the illusion of existing apart from him. The diagram of the Tree of Life gives us a way to imagine the layers of reality between our physical existence and the gateway to God himself. In the video titled Creation is a Song, I suggest that the scientifically knowable universe, the ever-expanding knowable reality, exists within God. Now we have a name for the Creator, the Ain Sof, the vastness from which creation emanates. We also know that within mystical Judaism, reality is made up of words. God fills each letter of his words with light and energy and then sings them into the space he reserved for us, a process known as Zimtzum. It is the obligation of Jews to sing prayers back to God. Likewise, it is incumbent on Christians, Hindus, and all those who believe in a creator to pray. Jews believe that God has revealed himself to all nations, or different people, of the earth. Each nation has a destiny, and in the end, all will return to God. At the base of the Tree of Life is the sephirah called Malkhut. The Tanya defines Malkhut as sovereignty. Above Malkhut is the absolute kingship of God. Below Malkhut is the independence and self-governance of humanity, or the illusion of freedom and independence. Because according to the Tanya, all of existence is continuously sustained by God's presence and speech. There is no true separation from the divine. Malkhut, as the channel through which divine energy enters the physical world, gives rise to the perception of independence. But this is only because God's light is concealed in order for us to feel free will. As the Tanya emphasizes, God is Mimale Kol Alamin, filling all worlds, and Zovev Kol Alamin, surrounding all worlds. And even the apparent autonomy of creation is utterly dependent on his constant will. The Chabad tradition explains Malkhut as if it were a quantum interface. On the Chabad website, Malkhut is said to contain 2 completely opposite qualities: hitnasut, meaning exaltedness, and its opposite, shiflut, meaning humility. Malkhut exists in exaltedness and humility simultaneously. Malkhut is a metaphorical space where above is the heavenly realm reaching up to emanation, and below is the physical world of humanity. In Rabbi Chaim Miller's book, The Practical Tanya, he explains the paradox of Malkhut in terms of unification. Malkhut is the boundary layer between humanity and the Creator. When Malkhut is closer to the Creator, it is in the state of upper unification. When it is closer to humanity, it is in the state of lower unification. We are always unified with God. The greater our connection is to God, the higher level of unification is achieved. The Zohar explains Malchut by comparing it to the moon. The moon has no light of her own and reflects the light of the sun. Malchut, as a feminine aspect of God, receives all the light, energy, and information emanated through the sephirah and reveals the words, thoughts, and intents of God to the material world. The prayers and service, the good deeds known as mitzvot, connect us to the thoughts and intention of God. Going even deeper into the Zohar, Kabbalists, Jewish mystics who primarily study the Zohar, identify Malchut with the Shekinah, also known as the feminine spirit of God. The Shekinah is another metaphor for the concept of receiving and giving. She is the immanent presence of God that dwells among the people of Israel, especially in exile. She is personified and symbolized as the divine bride, the moon, the queen, and she longs to be united with the upper Sephiroth through the sephirah of Tiferet, divine beauty and the radiance of the sun. Between the Shekinah and her beloved is Yesod, the foundation, truth, and the aspect that collects all of the light force of the Sephiroth above and gives it to Malchut, fulfilling her desire to receive the light of God. In kind, she gives the radiance to the realm of Asiya, the physical plane in which we dwell. Rabbi Moshe de Leon, the 13th century compiler of the Zohar, defines Malchut as the secret of kingship in exile, the divine feminine presence awaiting union with the Holy One. Blessed be He, through the love and merits of Israel. The Kabbalah is a romance between God and His people. They have been separated through the act of creation and will one day be joined together in eternal matrimony. Rabbi Isaac Luria, the 16th century Kabbalist, explains that Malchut is also a vessel to receive the sparks of the divine lost in the initial act of creation. This concept, known as Tikkun Olam, the repair of the world, is a concept too long to be put in this podcast. Suffice it to say that when the world is repaired, the Shekinah, now in exile, will merge with the Ain Sof and complete the cycle of creation. This is the essence of Jewish eschatology. There are several interesting and relevant ideas about Malchut by contemporary rabbis that we should look at. For example, Rabbi Yehuda Ashlag, who wrote The 10 Luminous Emanations, focuses on Malchut as the place where ego and separation from God appear to be real, though this is an illusion. Through personal spiritual work, a person can gain self-empowerment and directly connect to God. Another popular contemporary rabbi is David Cooper. His book, titled God is a Verb, portrays Malchut as the point where divine energy crystallizes into form. All interactions with God are processes and movements. They are a sacred dance between becoming and being. Malchut is participatory. We co-create reality by aligning our intention with His divine flow. Each of the Sephiroth has a governing angel. Sandalphon is the governing angel of Malchut. He stands at the threshold between heaven and earth, gathering the prayers of humanity and weaving them into crowns for the divine. Sandalphon represents the bridge between the physical and spiritual realms. He does not judge the essence of the messages sent to God or returned to man. So the occult phrase, as above, so below, this is why we must not curse or use God's name in vain, for what goes up will ultimately come back down. Many other traditions have adopted the concept of the tree of life. In anthroposophy, as envisioned by Rudolf Steiner, He makes specific mention of Malkhut, stating that a part of man's ego dwells in Malkhut. Specifically, he said, it is the realm of earthly life where human beings act to transform the material into spiritual through moral and conscious evolution. Man will experience the spiritual world in his own ego, even in that ego which he dwells in Malkhut. That was to be reached by what has held the two worlds apart coming to an end, so that man, when his ego dwelling in Malkhut, will be able to ascend into the spiritual world. Within anthroposophy, Malkhut is a threshold to be overcome, presumably by acknowledging the solar Christ within. To summarize, Malkhut is a boundary layer between the divine and the material world. It is a feminine receiving aspect of the Creator and a transmitter of God's reflected light to the world. She is the moon. She is Shekinah. She is a vessel to gather the dispersed sparks of God and the interface for Tikkun Olam, the restoration of the world. Malkhut bridges the desire of God to know humanity and of humanity to know God. She is effectively a quantum gate operating in two states simultaneously, allowing us to hear the song of creation and to raise our chorus back to the ultimate divine, the Ain Sof, everything that is not creation. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and have learned something new about mystical Kabbalah and the unification of God and humanity. As you move on to another podcast, take a moment to click like and subscribe to keep this channel alive.